Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And as I look around this room, I see some of the best environmentalists and conservationists that this country has to offer. And we have done it as farmers over generations because the best asset, the biggest asset that we have is the land that we're going to pass on to the next generation. And so for us, it is everything to make sure that we are leaving it better for our kids. And I see so many folks in this room that are doing that day in, day out. So thank you. Mr. Scheffelbein, so I feel like an underachiever. I only have 7 children, 5 boys, 2 girls. But thank you so much.
It's not too late.
Yeah, that's right. It's a good start, right? It's a good start. Thank you so much for hosting this today. And just want you to know and your family to know that Big Frank was a great man, someone that I looked up to. I was elected to the Minnesota House when I was 24 years old. And I remember meeting him right away. And I'm like, who is this guy? He knows everything. And what drew me to him was his kind heart. He was a good man with a kind heart that really cared about our state and, again, cared about the next generation and what we can do to make sure that we're leaving farm country better. So it's an honor to be here. I want to talk to you a little bit about the trade deficit. As an ag trade deficit right now, we're at about $14.5 billion this year. And our overall trade deficit has reached a staggering $945 billion, the largest ever. And so I guess my question is probably pretty simple. A lot of us in this room believe that we have to have free trade, but it has to be fair trade. So as a producer that's been on these trade missions and someone that understands this, can you give us an idea of where do you see opportunities? What should we be focused on to try to balance that trade deficit?
Yeah, and the beef is so different from most commodities in that it has lots of pieces and lots of parts, that lots of different populations like this piece better than that piece. So from our perspective, the way we generate the most dollars back to the beef industry is get as many countries with as wide a variety of backgrounds as you possibly can, so the varying pieces and parts can be sold to their maximum utility. The other thing I said, and that's why my comments were so aggressive on efficiency, almost always when you go into trade agreements, they push back on the very things that make food available for the poorest of the poor. And to me, that's a disservice for not only the United States farmers, but for the world. We've got to keep our eye on the ball and make sure that what they may label as a scientific notation is real and not just another means to say, we don't want your efficiently produced product.
Thank you for that. Just a quick yes or no. So you talked about your production increases over 300% in the last 20 years or whatever it was. Did government make you do that? Did government tell you to do that?
No, they did not.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you for doing it without being told. Ms. Olson, so thank you so much for being here. As we look at some of the trade issues that potentially lie before us, especially when it comes to animal disease, animal health. We look at African swine fever, the avian influenza. What can we do to be proactive and to start thinking about, the devastation that could happen? And if you could tell us a little bit about the reality of that devastation if African swine fever hits our shores. The second piece is when it comes to trade, what can we do now to start conversations with our trade partners about some of those major animal health diseases that we continually to face?
I'm going to answer that in reverse order, Mr. Congressman, if you are okay with that. Thank you for that question, and thank you, Mr. Chair. For our farm, the devastation is going to be a little bit more clear after I talk about the trade part. We need to be talking now about what could happen if African swine fever gets onto the North American continent. That affects not only the U.S., it affects Mexico, it affects Canada. And with our proximity to Canada geographically and the number of live hogs that moves back and forth, we need to be discussing that right now, especially with those two trading partners. Discussing strategies for keeping it off of our continent or keeping it away from us as much as possible. Enforcement, detecting the meats coming in, people trying to bring cuts of pork in their luggage, the Beagle Brigade, funding those, but talking about the importance of that with our trade partners and looking at ways to mitigate the chances of it spreading is of utmost importance. If we don't do that and try and prevent it from coming to our shores, then we also need to be talking about our vaccines and our vaccine banks and that strategy, and have our trading partners understand the importance of that as well. Because when it gets to my farm, what will happen is we are a contract finisher, which means we don't own the pigs. We do the labor, we own the barns, we own the manure. As an organic farmer, that manure is critical for our farm success. If we are unable to raise pigs any longer in our barns because we have to depopulate or our grower has to depopulate, that means we have no manure and no fertility for our organic crops, and that will be devastating for us. But not only the crops, it's also our neighbors who raise the corn and soybeans that go to feed the pigs. It's a ripple effect that will have an impact on the local economy that I can't even put into an estimate because it will be devastating. And Lyon County, where I live, is not even the largest pork-producing county. Your district is. So it would be utterly devastating. So it is critical that we do talk with our trading partners on strategies to keep it out.